Hi, this is Brad Constantine, and you've reached the Book of Mormon lecture series. I've been teaching Seminary and Institute for the last 11 years, and this is an attempt to do a deep dive into the Book of Mormon itself. I'm hoping that you'll find this uplifting and edifying. This is not an official recording of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but every attempt has been made to be as doctrinally accurate as possible. So if you're ready for a deep dive into the Book of Mormon, here we go. Hi, and welcome back to the Book of Mormon podcast. This discussion is going to be 2 Nephi chapter 24 and Isaiah chapter 14. I'm Brad Constantine, and welcome back. Now, as you can tell in the heading of the chapter, this is about the gathering of Israel in the last days, and that Israel will enjoy millennial rest. And so as we read through this, there's not a lot of commentary to this necessarily, but this is showing how Israel will be spared in the second coming, and that they will enjoy millennial rest.
Verses 1 through 3, Israel will be gathered, chosen of God, and rest from sorrow. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. In other words, Gentiles will be converted. These verses refer to the millennial rest of Israel. Bruce R. McConkie said, Such spiritual blessings as come to the Gentiles shall be theirs because they cleave unto Israel. And the people, the Gentiles, shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them, the Gentiles, in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Israel shall rule, the Gentiles shall serve, the kingdom is the Lord's, his people are the governing ones. Such is the meaning of Isaiah's imagery. Verse 2, And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, i.e. other nations shall help Israel, yea, from far unto the ends of the earth, and they shall return to their lands of promise, and the house of Israel shall possess them, and the land of the Lord shall be for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives unto whom they were captives, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in that day, remember that's our day, that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. Israel will be at peace. Verses 4 through 11, fall of the kingdom of Babylon, or of the king of Babylon. And it shall come to pass in that day that thou shalt take up this proverb, a satirical song, against the king of Babylon, and say, How hath the oppressor ceased, the golden city? Hebrew, perhaps insolent or proud, ceased. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepters of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke or constant blows, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet, and they break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees, Hebrew cypress, rejoice at thee, and also the cedars of Lebanon, the kings of the nations, saying, Since thou art laid down, or in death, no feller is come up against us. The tree cutter has not come upon us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, i.e. disembodied spirits, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, Art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, or Sheol, or the spirit world. The noise of thy vials is not heard. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Verses 12 to 23 is the fall of Lucifer. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Lucifer means light-bearer or shining one. Hebrew, morning star, son of dawn, the ruler of the wicked world, Babylon, is spoken of as Lucifer, the ruler of all wickedness. Isaiah again used dualism. Chapters 13 and 14 describe the downfall of Babylon, both of Babylon as an empire and of Babylon as the symbol of the world. Thus, most scholars think Lucifer, son of the morning, is the king of Babylon, probably Nebuchadnezzar. That was out of the Institute Manual. Art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, dwelling of the gods, according to Babylonian belief. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Elder Joseph Anderson said, We are given to understand that whereas in the pre-existence, in that spiritual estate, the spirits had their free agency, there were different degrees of obedience, various grades of righteousness. Lucifer exercised his free agency when he rebelled against the Father, but he had to pay the penalty for that rebellion and is still doing so, as are those spirits who followed him. They were denied the privilege of taking upon themselves mortality, and this has been a curse and a disappointment to them. Verse 15, Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They see They that see thee, i.e. the kings of Babylon, the preceding verses 12 to 15 applied to either Lucifer or the king, shall narrowly, or in the Hebrew, squint at thee and reflect upon thee, look upon thee, and shall consider thee, and shall say, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, and made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, and opened not the house of his prisoners? And all the kings of the nations, yea, all of them, lie in glory, every one of them in his own house, i.e. his family tomb. Babylon fell in its day, and spiritual Babylon will yet fall. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, i.e. a rejected branch, pruned off and discarded. And the remnant of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, i.e. the very bottom, as a carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquities of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. I.e., let not another evil generation arise and resume an evil regime. For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, and remnant, and son, and nephew, saith the Lord. I will also make it a possession for the bittern, brownish wetlands bird with long legs for wading. Bittern is translated into English from a Hebrew word meaning porcupine. And pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom, or broom of destruction, saith the Lord of hosts. Verses 24 to 27, God is in control of all nations. The Lord of hosts hath sworn, saying, Surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so shall it stand, that I will bring the Assyrian in my land. The subject shifts to Assyria's attack and downfall in Judah, 701 BC. And upon my mountains, i.e. the mountains of Judah, tread him underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. This was fulfilled when 185,000 men of the Assyrian army were slain during the night of the angel of the Lord, as they were laying siege to the city of Jerusalem. Verse 26, This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations, i.e. eventually all worldly nations will be overthrown thus. For the Lord of hosts hath purposed, and who shall disannul? And his hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? Verses 28 to 32, Judgment against the Philistines. In the year, i.e. about 720 BC, this burden or message of doom was prophesied about the Philistines, while Judah would be secure. The king Ahaz died with this burden. Rejoice not thou, whole Palestina, in Hebrew Philistia, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. And the firstborn of the poor shall feed, and the needy shall lie down in safety. And I will kill thy root with famine, and he shall slay thy remnant. Howl, O gate, cry, O city, thou whole Palestina art dissolved. For there shall come from the north a smoke, and none shall be alone in his appointed times. What shall then answer the messengers of the nations, i.e. Philistia, that the Lord hath founded Zion, and the poor of his people shall trust in it, or seek or refuge in it? Anyway, that's the end of the chapter, and we'll see you next time. Bye.